My unbelieving friends have been reading my blogs and wondering what the heck is wrong with church people, why certain decisions have been made, or how people so full of the love of God can do what they do. First of all, don't let the behavior of a handful of people determine how you view everyone who goes to my church, believers in general, or especially how you view Jesus Christ. If you want to see how Jesus Christ reacted to the disease of churchianity, read the Gospels. In those places where you see Sadducee or Pharisee, those are the people who suffered from churchianity in Jesus' day. I am currently not allowed to represent my church in any official way because people may read my blogs and mistakenly think that my message is also my church's message. And since my church, or at least the decision makers, obviously don't want to be identified with this message right now, then the question I must ask myself is, who do I represent? Do I represent my church, or do I represent Jesus? Usually when I represent my church, I am by default also representing Jesus, since my church is an organization that represents Jesus. But if the thing God tells me to do or say and the thing the church tells me to do or say are two different things, I must obey God rather than men. This is a faithful saying and worthy of all acceptance. For to this end we both labor and suffer reproach, because we trust in the living God, who is the Savior of all men, especially of those who believe. These things command and teach. 1 Timothy 4, 9 through 11, New King James Version. Ethnocentrism is the belief that the way of one's own culture are the only proper ones. As the victim of ethnocentric stereotyping and the related aggressive use of power, I can certainly appreciate the idea that in order to understand a belief or culture different from one's own, one must temporarily set aside his or her own point of view and try to see with the perspective of the person or group whom he or she is attempting to understand. However, I do not subscribe to the idea that one must permanently abandon his or her own beliefs in the process. In my case, discarding ethnocentric bias toward those who are traumatized by hellfire and brimstone is not a very difficult thing to do. When I was a child, I remember sitting on my grandpa's knee and lecturing him as sternly as I knew how. Never, never be a Catholic. You will go to hell if you are a Catholic. It is very bad to be a Catholic. My grandpa was Catholic, and my parents were Baptist. Needless to say, I am sure the grown-ups had a few choice words that evening after the kids went to bed. I also remember lying in bed at night, crying and praying and feeling very angry at God because he would burn my grandparents in hell for eternity. Because I have spent time on the other side of the fence, I understand that the harsh words and actions directed at me are a result of fear. Ultimately, what is the reason people of one religion feel so threatened by people of another religion? Why do people feel as though they must do everything in their power to prevent another person from sharing or practicing his or her beliefs? I do not believe that this has as much to do with the differences as it has to do with the fear that if the opposing religion is left unchecked or experiences great revival, then this is equated in the mind of the person who believes in fear-based doctrines with the idea that a great number of people will either be annihilated for eternity, or worse, they will burn in hell forever. If each religion or denominational group has a different set of guidelines for avoiding hell, then this automatically pits them against each other in competition for the eternal destinies of human beings. It is no wonder this world struggles as it does with religious intolerance. This is a blog comment. The emphasis is not mine. In Islam, martyrdom washes away all past sins. The suicide bomber believes that his or her actions guarantees a place for 70 relatives in heaven. Who drowned her 5 children to guarantee they would not go to hell, was found not guilty by reason of insanity.
You make me sick because I adore you so. I love all the dirty truth.
By the time my husband and I went to see the pastor about putting an end to spiritual bullying, I had resigned to the fact that things would be very difficult for me in the weeks and months ahead. But I also felt strongly about the idea that nothing ever changes for the better if people run away from their problems. It grieved my heart that a handful of people would not even allow me to speak to them in person, by email or phone, but I also received several long emails from people who were sympathetic to my situation. My main concern was that if the pastor and staff did not put an end to the bullying, that someone else might find himself or herself having to work through the very difficult emotions that accompany such treatment. As for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, to bring it to pass, as it is this day.